Thanks very much, David. And hi everybody, morena. This morning I'd like to give you a quick overview of the FY20 year and what we've got coming up. My first job though is to reiterate David's thanks to the team. I'm absolutely humbled by what our teams have achieved during the COVID challenge. We've been through an extraordinary 8 months, and our team in Victoria and more recently New Zealand are now still very much in the thick of it. We've had an autonomous management team in place in Victoria for some time now, and it's really paid off. In the early years, we managed our operations from afar, but now we have 750 residents and 559 staff, so there's now a substantial operation over there. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're not missing so many people flying over from Christchurch each week either. So if we flick onto the team includes Victorian Operations Manager Paul Sutton, Sales and Community Relations Manager Deborah Richardson, Construction Manager Marty Osborne, and Development Manager David Lang. They're a tight team and they're doing an amazing job. The aged care industry is in the spotlight over there. The scrutiny is intense from every corner, and I cannot thank everyone enough, and I cannot thank our leadership and all of our people on the ground enough. It has crystallised for me more than ever how important our mission at Ryman is. Our villages are safe havens. They are places where people who have worked hard and deserve a peaceful and comfortable retirement can move to and relax, have fun, enjoy the company of others, and sit tight knowing that they are in our good hands. Our residents have told us that the COVID crisis made what we do more relevant than ever for them. They felt part of a community of care where everyone takes collective responsibility for the well-being and safety of the whole. The feedback we have had from residents, staff and families makes us more determined than ever to pursue our long-term mission of bringing as many Ryman communities as we can to places that need them. And as you'll be aware, we've been constantly investing on improving the experience of living in a Ryman village for our residents, developing our teams and our leaders, and improving clinical outcomes. Our LEAP training program, advanced leadership program, together with coaching of our senior people, have all contributed to lifting the capability of our leaders. And we've seen a massive improvement in our staff survey results this year. I've got no doubt that this investment in quality and developing our leaders has been a big factor in our ability to cope with COVID. So the proof of the pudding, I guess, is what those survey results actually showed. And just want to start with independent residents. If we just stop here for a moment, we've had really high scores over the last few years. We don't disclose what they are, but I can tell you that they are extremely high. And so we wondered how residents would fare coming out of COVID, having been in such a restrictive environment. And you can see that residents actually were happier than ever with their decision to choose to live in a Ryman village and what our staff achieved for them. So that was great to see that feedback. We also did a lot of work thinking about staff engagement because it's really difficult working in this sort of environment, and we undertook a lot of measures ranging, there's too much detail to go into really, but we did a range of measures to help with people's well-being and pay, and of course personal protection equipment, and so here's the results. You can see that our Net Promoter Score from previous years lifted really significantly after the pandemic, which is a great achievement from our leaders on the ground. But we're not complacent. For residents, the focus will continue to be on improving their experience of living in a Ryman village with additional services through our Delight program, and food is a renewed area of focus. And of course, I've volunteered my services as a taste tester, although my friends and colleagues at work don't think that that will be very helpful. Our ambition is to build as many Ryman communities as we can, wherever they are needed to meet the enormous demand ahead for retirement living and aged care. So it makes sense that we will need more working capital debt to build, and our balance sheet is growing to support our ambitions. And you can see that in that chart as total assets have increased really significantly over the last 5-10 years, and you can see there how the bank debt has also grown, but that's in line with the fact that we are growing into Melbourne and have been and are lifting our build rate and land bank. So building out the portfolio is capital intensive, and we're in the midst of our largest ever investment in growth. We have very supportive banks, and we need to carry working capital debt because we're in growth mode. That's the nub of it. We're not blasé about it, and we spend very carefully. We expect debt to peak a little earlier than we thought in 2021 because of the impact of COVID in Melbourne and New Zealand. But in terms of current trading, what I've been really pleased about is with the sales results between April and July this year. So new sales and resales combined in New Zealand have actually tracked higher than the same period this time last year. Given that we lost the first 6 weeks of this period to COVID, I'm really happy with the early progress that we're making. Aged care demand is as strong as ever, with our established care centres running at 97% occupancy. We have a significant amount of cash coming in as well over the next 12 months, and already there's $327 million of unconditional contracts in place which will settle as we complete new stages. The good news is that it's just the current pre-sales, so there'll be more than that. While building requires capital, the villages that we build bring in capital sums as soon as the first resident moves in, and this then initiates a tail of growing, recurring cash flows. Given the growth in our portfolio that we've seen over the past 5 years, we expect to see a sustained increase in resale gains, deferred management fees, and also fresh care earning streams develop as we build new care beds. Our aim remains to double underlying profits every 5 years, which represents approximately 15% growth per year, and we were confident of achieving this in FY20 had it not been for the COVID effect, which started to kick in during March, our biggest selling month. The growth in our build rate coming up reflects our ongoing ambition to grow at 15% per annum over the medium term. Looking ahead, Victoria and New Zealand and the rest of the world at some point will get COVID under control. We have a land bank of 6,595 beds and units across New Zealand and Victoria, and of this 3,900 are consented. That's 1,000 more than in FY19. And we have a further 7 sites in for consent right now, which represents another 2,235 units and beds that are currently being processed by councils. And here are the 7 sites. You can see them on screen. There's some really beautiful designs there in lovely locations. And look, it may take longer to get approval in some places than others, and that's why we've got plenty of irons in the fire, more than ever before. So our pipeline is in really good shape. It's a real credit to the development team and the whole team actually, and means we're well placed for growth over the next few years. At this moment, we're building on 12 sites right now, and we're not planning on starting any other new sites this year, even though we have options to do so, particularly at Hyatt, where we've just got new endorsed plans. These 12 sites represent a good mix of high, medium and low density. To put this activity into context, in 2017 we only had 6 sites on the go. And if we just stop there for a sec, if we go back to March 19, that's the slide that's there, that list shows the 12 sites that we now have on the go. So you can see that there were a number that needed to work right through some key processes to move into the construction phase, and this is where we are at now. So that's where we're at now. And so it's just Hyatt where we have the full ability to get going if we want to, but I think 12 sites for now is plenty on the go. And what's the size of the prize for these 12 sites? Once they're fully developed, they will be worth $2.6 billion in capital proceeds, and they'll provide homes and care for another 4,700 Ryman residents. They'll generate $210 million in recurring income from sales and deferred management fees, and will also generate fresh care earnings as new care beds are built. And of course that's on top of the development margins which will occur. So I just wanted to now take you on a quick 5 minutes whistle-stop tour of our sites around New Zealand and Australia. Gosh, there's a lot on there. We've been busy in Auckland, where we have construction continuing at Murray Halberg and Linfield, William Sanders in Devonport, Miriam Corbin on Lincoln Road in West Auckland, and the great news is we just moved our first residents in there yesterday, and the feedback from our new residents was that they loved their new homes, and the photos and speaking with the construction and sales team yesterday went really well. And of course Scott Road in Hobsonville. We're all set to hold our grand opening at Murray Halberg as soon as COVID allows, and we're expecting to open the care centre at William Sanders later in the year. Our Linda Jones village in Hamilton is also going great guns, and the village is selling well, and we will open this care centre in the next few months. Gary Cox, or Coxie as we call him, and the team there won our Ryman Construction Team of the Year award, which they were delighted about a couple of weeks ago. We had to do those awards virtually as well, so we're learning on our feet all the time. And so too Victoria. We had to significantly reduce our building activity at Burwood East, Aberfeldy and Nellie Melba sites last week in line with the latest COVID-19 lockdown rules over there for metropolitan Melbourne. We have been able to continue to build at our Highton and Ocean Grove sites because they're in regional Victoria and they are in level 3 restrictions, so that means we can keep on going. All going well. We're actually planning to welcome our first Highton residents, I think Marty said to me, next Friday. Hopefully that's not wrong, but very soon. And the first Ocean Grove townhouses are targeted for move-ins in December this year. So I can tell you, just sort of stopping there for a little bit, when I spoke to Marty last night, I said, would you describe our goal about getting 5 villages open by December 2020 as hoping or planning? And he said, nah, we're planning for it. So they're really going for it over there, and I'm proud of them. In our hometown in Christchurch, we're underway at Riccarton Park. Not only does it have grandstand views of Riccarton Racecourse, it also has vistas towards the Southern Alps. And we're working through the consenting process with Christchurch City Council for our new Bishops Park Terrace site. There is a lot of interest for this village right on Hagley Park, and there's been some strong interest, not least from certain people maybe to my right, I don't know. Our Northwood Village plans are also progressing, and it's going to be another great village. In Wellington, we have completed demolition of the buildings destined to go at our Karori Teachers College site. We are preserving 3 significant historic buildings, and we're working through the consenting process with Wellington City Council. But one thing we know is that the local preschool children across the road have thoroughly enjoyed the demolition, and I think our demolition company even might have left them with a couple of diggers, which they're loving. In Victoria, we're working through the planning process for our Mount Eliza, Mount Martha and Ringwood villages. We've just received endorsed plans for our Hyatt site, which is another great achievement for the Victorian team. Amazing what you can do just working from home, isn't it? Our plans for Mount Eliza have been knocked back by the local council, despite a lot of compromise and consultation, but that was what we expected, to have to go to VCAT. And I'll tell you why we are, and that is because we have over 300 people who have lived in that region their whole life, and they would absolutely love us to build a village there. It's got really strong demand, it's a beautiful site, and we are very committed to making a success, not just for us and our residents, but for the community. So as you can see, our growth and ambitions haven't changed. We think long term, and the goal is to grow to meet the demand ahead. COVID has made what we do more important than ever. We've been through a pretty challenging year, I would say. And as David said, the good news is that we know a lot more about COVID each day. And finally, I'd like to thank you, our shareholders, for your ongoing support. It means a lot to me and the team. And back to you, David.